Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm pretty sure that nobody would say no to this statement. I like my area, my life organized. How many people are going to say, no, I like clutter. It's great. I love it. Or I love a mess in my home. Usually you're going to go with the organized side. Easier said than done. Not all of us are wired to organize, clean, get it done. But when you look at it from the aspect of it's not just having no clutter around, the energetic aspect, the emotional aspect. And if you really realized it, you would do whatever you got going on there to organize it and declutter it and do all of it. She's somebody that helps people with that all the time. And we're going to get some examples of that as well as she joins us. Emily Guderian is with us on the program. Hey, welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you. No, it's good to see you. I'm doing great.
You too. You too. Your company is built2bevisible.com. Do I have that right?
That's it. Well, I'm a pro organizing company.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's kind of weird when you talk to people and they say, Emily, haven't seen you in a while. What do you do? Oh, I'm a professional organizer. What do they say to that?
Well, I mean, immediately it's, instant judgment. Like I'm looking at their space, I'm looking at them, I'm sizing them up. No, that's not my thing. And the truth is, there's a lot of people that would think that my house is completely like top to bottom. I've got it. I don't. There's some spots that, I'm not going to show the company. There's some spots that need a little attending to.
For sure. For sure. Well, it doesn't matter who you are. All our homes have that. You could have a cleaning person come every other day.
Right.
It could be the same situation. There's always going to be those little areas.
Right. That's just life.
It is. Life happens, and that's all good. I like to think that I'm fairly organized. I don't want to say that I was a perfectionist about it, but I would be a little too picky. Now I let a lot of that go. But if you ask me, where something is, listen, I've got screws in my garage and nuts and bolts from like 30 years ago. I'm not even kidding. It's actually pretty stupid, but when I need something,
you may need that someday.
and it happens. I need a strangulator, pre-static converter. Just made those up, but whatever. I got them. I don't have to go to Home Depot, get in the car, and go. But I like to know where things are. Now, let's look at this and we started last time digging into this, the energetic situation when it comes to clutter. What's actually going on there?
There's a lot of things going on. So let's just talk about when I go into somebody's space. There's two things that I need to be able to read the energy of the room. I need to be looking for it. And then I need whoever owns that space to give me the permission to do it. So if I'm invited over, that's permission. Now, it's kind of like game on at that point. So I go into a home and I'm just kind of listening for what works. I'm listening for what doesn't work. I'm listening for complaints that kind of come up more than once, persistent complaints. That's what I'm listening for. And all of these things kind of play in to the state of the room. So I'm also looking at the technical side of it, the organizing principle side of it. So the flow of traffic, if there's any, I call them pinch points, but if there's any spots in the rooms where it seems to be more cluttered, I'm looking for how things are zoned, are things together, like things grouped. I'm looking for what I call point of use. So I'm looking for all of those principles. You don't want to have all the baking goods, for instance, in the kitchen on the other side, from where you actually do the baking. So you want things close to where you actually use them, and that's the point of use. So I'm looking at all of the things and then making the assessment. But what's really fascinating is when you talk to people, whether they realize it or not, they will tell you what that emotional issue is that's kind of keeping them stuck. And that's what I've practiced. I've been doing that for about 10 years, having that listening for the emotional side. Now, I've only been in business as an organizer for 2 years, and it never occurred to me when I started organizing that I could meld the two. In fact, if you're up for a story, I'll share
Yeah, please
something that
do.
happened to me just last week. So I have a friend. She was my second client ever. So that was a little over 2 years ago. I went and organized a space for her in her house, and it was a space right off of her Eden area. Just last week, I went and had lunch with her over at her house. This was totally a social gathering. And I asked her about this space. Now, when I was there 2 years ago, it took an afternoon and we knocked it out. This is kind of like a kid's space. There's papers from school, craft projects. We knocked it out. But we didn't do any energy work. I didn't know to do energy work at that time. So here we are 2 years later. My friend didn't even want to show me that space, even though I had been in it, like all up in it 2 years ago. She didn't want to show it to me because it was back in clutter again. And not only back in clutter, it was worse than it was 2 years ago. And then on top of that, there were other spaces in her home that were fine 2 years ago that were now in clutter. So it's kind of like that clutter is like a rabbit, and the rabbits had babies, and all of that clutter was spreading into all different kinds, all different parts of the house.
Hmm.
So that was the fascinating aspect to me is we did not do, I mean, I did the organizing, it looked great, but we didn't do the energetic side of it. And here we are 2 years later, and she's stuck again. That room is a point of frustration for her. So it was in that moment that I'm like, okay, we're onto something here. Like there absolutely is a necessary side of releasing that stuck energy, that stuck emotion, so that people can actually enjoy the organization that we put in place for them. It'll like last, it stays.
I'm all about changing the energy and the organizing. How do you blend it? Like, are you saging the room? Palo Santo? What are you doing?
I'm listening. I'm listening. So the room will give me feedback, and I combine that feedback with what the client is saying. So I had a client. I'm getting it's an intuitive thing, I guess, where I'm getting feedback from the room that there is a disconnect between the room and the home and the person that lives there. There's no connection. Like the person that lives there doesn't like that space, and the room knows it. That sounds kind of crazy, I know. But then you combine that with the emotional stuff that's going on with this person. And I understood in that moment that all of the clutter on the outside was what this client was feeling on the inside. So it's it's
Hmm.
a combination of things. You just walk into a space. I just walk into a space and I listen, and the information comes. Sometimes it comes in like a fire hose, and sometimes it comes a piece at a time. But ultimately, it all comes to create a picture, a complete picture about what that person is experiencing in that space. And almost always, when I find somebody that's got clutter that they've, pulled it together, and then it's back in clutter 2 years, 1 year, 6 months later, there's almost always some negative emotion that's stuck that may have nothing to do with the room. That's the interesting part. It has nothing to do with the space. That stuck emotion just manifests as piles or clutter in all kinds of ways, clothes, papers, all types of things. It's interesting, and it's hard to describe how it happens. It's a listening.
Well, for anybody that doesn't realize it or think, we're getting really woo-woo here, everything, eh, maybe we are, but everything has energy. This pen has energy. You have
Yeah,
energy. I have energy. All of this has this can of seltzer. There's energy right there, but
for
it's
sure.
everything is different energy. So been proven by the Einstein dude back in the day, and nobody really listened to him back then until we
Right.
started figuring this stuff out. But all of that being said, it's reasonable to think that when you have piles of things that were put there based on emotion, which there's energy there as well, that negative energy is all building up in somebody's environment. And until you move those things around and move the energy, that person is going to feel stuck, out of sorts, not the way that they feel that they should be feeling. Does it come down to just that, moving that stuff around the room, or just decluttering?
Sometimes. So when I organize, and some people need more emotional release than others. I have clients where I just do the straight organizing. There's nothing that's keeping them stuck. It's just they need the help to set up the system. But what I have found is when we do the emotional side of it, it's a little more than just a cleaning. It's a little more than just a reset of an organizational system. It starts, in fact, it absolutely is in that space then of transformation, because it's not just cleaning, and the people, they feel it, and it's hard to kind of quantify that in the ways that engineering school taught me that we need to quantify the data. But it's more than just a clean slate. It is a system that's been customized for who they are and how they are in that moment. And it's lasting. I don't know if that answers your question, but it without that energetic side of it, it ultimately, organizing then kind of becomes like cleaning or housekeeping. And it's what I do is a little different. I mean, I'm going to clean as I go for sure, but I'm creating a system that should outlive me. It should be there and be beneficial to the client long after I leave. That's my goal. Like, it's almost like a legacy. I want that system to work so flawlessly, so effortlessly, that person just can kind of step into something bigger than what they had before I got there.
You could look at it two ways. Somebody could hire a professional organizer, or hire a professional organizer who's going to do a similar job. However, like yourself, have an eye on the energy that's being exchanged there. And you're getting so much more. I truly would look at it from your eyes. Um, there's much more going on there that's going to benefit from somebody.
Right. And it's different than feng shui. So I know that there's quite a few organizers out there that are about the positioning of plants, the positioning of mirrors, the colors that are used, the relationship of certain pieces of furniture to the doorways and stuff. That's important, but that's not going to bring the transformation. The transformation comes within that person. There is something within them. Sometimes they know it. More often than not, they don't know what it is. And when that something is released, it's just like that trigger is gone. The stuckness, that rut feeling that you get, that you resist, but you don't really know how to change it. That's what disappears. And
Wow.
that's the listening side. That's, and then, there's questions I ask around, and I have tools to find out if I'm on the right path or I'm not. Sometimes I think it's one thing, and my energetic tools will let me know, nope, that's not exactly accurate. Let's go this way. But ultimately we find what that trigger is for that individual. And it's like, it's never the same. It's never the same.
So I wonder which came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it you?
These are some deep questions, Steve. These are great questions.
Was it Emily tuned into energy and then decided to be a professional organizer, or was it you went to be a professional organizer and then realized that, yes, I'm tuned into energy, I'm going to blend the two? How did it go?
Started off with the energetic side first. These were tools that I was drawn to. It resonated with me. These were things just for me and just for my family. I had no intention of sharing this on a podcast. I had no intention of proclaiming this to the world. It was just the tools that I had that I used for my own peace and my own well-being. So fast forward, I get this little inner voice that is persistent, And it's for the next chapter of my life. You know, my children, I raised them I was a homemaker and a full-time stay-at-home mom for 26 years. That phase of my life shifted, and then the inner voice is like, you're going to start an organizing business. I heard that. And then yeah,
Wow.
and then right after I heard in my mind, you're going to start an organizing business, you're going to start an energetic business, you know, where I'm helping people with these energetic tools. I had no idea in that moment that it would be the same business. And it just kind of developed at, you know, like I said, with client number 2, I wasn't doing it. I hadn't made that connection yet. It was somewhere around client number 4 that I started picking up on it. And it was just kind of a let me ease you through this process with these tools, not understanding even then what would unfold. The thing for me was I used these energetic tools with a client who was very open to it. I went back to visit her a year later, and the system that I put in place was exactly the same as when I left it. So that's when I'm like, oh wait, we're onto something here. People are stuck because of some unresolved emotion, not because they don't know how to take care of their space, not because they don't have time, not
Hmm.
because, you know, of any other reason. They're stuck because of something emotional. It's fascinating.
Um, I totally have it here, and I'm going to back this up in a moment. But
Yeah.
is it also safe to say that many of us aren't the slobs we think we might be, or others say that we are? It's because we have stuck emotion, attachments to objects, things, and that's why they show up. And it appears to be clutter, but it's we're going through stuff.
Yeah, those physical things represent something energetically or emotionally. So, no, most people know how to manage their stuff. If they're not managing their stuff, if their stuff is managing them, they're stuck. Almost always, they're stuck emotionally, energetically.
Hmm.
It's, I don't want to say it's 100% of the time, but it is shockingly often.
Don't want to run out of time, so I'm going to just fire through here.
Sure.
I will tell you that somebody who I've worked with, friends with, highly intuitive, world famous for what he does in terms of his intuitiveness. And he told me decades ago that when you have clutter in a room, boxes and things like that, you are blocking the flow of energy and it's messing you up. And if you're working and you feel like you're not being productive in your office and you can't figure out why, it's because of the clutter. And it's not just the clutter,
Right.
it's the energy around it and things that are being blocked. Um, it means so much. The tools that you mentioned, Emily, that you use to help figure out somebody, what are we talking about here?
Two different teachers that I've had over the years. So my teacher and my mentor for one of the sets of tools is Siobhan Moran, and that's energy mastery. And I've taken multiple classes with that. So that's one of the energy tools that I use. The other energy tool that I use is through Muscle Testing Academy, and that's through Joyce and Steve Brenton, actually here in Gilbert, Arizona, of all places. So it's those two teachers that I've spent the years and the time with to hone and practice and refine these tools. And so that's the primary, I guess, modality, if we want to use that word. But
Hmm.
there's also I've done a lot of the inner work for myself so that I can receive. So you talk about the flow of energy. My I'm starting to see that like there's this universal law of abundance. And when we don't receive, it's not because it's not there. It's all of the ways that we've, you know, put up blocks to receiving, whether it's physical clutter blocks or emotional blocks, or, you know, there's a lot of different ways that we can keep that bountiful flow of energy from actually reaching us. It's not that it's not there for us. It's how we can't receive it. Does that
Wow.
make sense? That's weird.
No, it's I want to, I'm trying to get in your head how you do what you do. And I believe everything you do. And
Thank you.
I think it's amazing that you've blended the two together because they go together. There's no doubt about it. Like my office studio here, and this is in a building, this is not my home. It's a little messy lately. And I find myself not being able to get things done. And I know what it is. I know I got to get this stuff out of here. I know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not just clutter. I've already identified that. I'm blocking energy, that coffee cup that, I need to throw away from this morning. It's there. And there's something there about it. Can I put my finger on this energy thing? No, but I know what it is. I totally have
Yeah.
gotten to that point. I'm a big fan of saging. I'm overdue. I should be walking around with the
For
saging stick,
sure.
you
There's
know?
lots of different tools. Those are just the two tools that I use, but there's
Sure.
lots of different tools. So yeah, absolutely.
And you bring a
But
reminder to my mind.
yeah,
Um, I have a few people around here, but every week I have a group of men. I joined a men's group. It's been very beneficial learning about others and what, everybody goes through. And we're a leadership community service organization as well.
nice.
But I got like ten men showing up tonight. And after they leave, they're bringing their energy, good or bad. So I should be saging.
Yeah. Well, and I'll teach you what I teach my clients. There's one thing that you can do. So you take this one hand, like, and pretend it's a samurai sword, and you just across your solar plexus 3 times, and you're cutting cords. Now you can't cut cords of love, you can't cut cords of joy or affection, but you can cut negative energy cords. So, right, the 3 times, cut cords, cut cords, cut cords, and then I pretend to throw it into, I don't know, an imaginary hole in the ground or a salt bowl or something. But when you cut those cords, you've like it's like a period at the end of the sentence. You've
Mm,
like protected yourself, I guess, from any negative energy
sure.
that you might pick up from somebody else.
And I've seen Reiki masters doing Reiki chakra balancing where they're doing I have one friend, Rena, when she does it, she's like pulling stuff out of you like
Yeah.
this and then and takes it and throws it, symbolically throws it away.
Yeah.
Final question, slightly related, but not so much. You said you
Okay.
can't cut the cords of love. Now I know there's many ways to cut cords, and there's YouTube videos, billions of them out there.
Sure.
Um, why can't you cut the cord of love?
That seems to be the universal thing that connects us all, the collective thing that connects us. And so those cords of love and those cords of light are stronger than anything that's negative or
Okay.
dark. And therefore, we don't have any tool, humans don't have that tool to cut those cords, but it's really not in our best interest to cut those
Well,
cords of love or
okay.
light.
Let me clarify that. What about if it's love gone bad?
Then yes, then you're cutting the cords of the negative stuff. So love in and of itself is a positive thing.
It's the highest vibration. It doesn't get any better than that.
Right. But sometimes there's other things that attend it that are painful or negative. That's what you cut.
And you can.
And you can.
Hmm. Learned a lot today. I I know you get
You're so good to me. Thank you, Steve.
yes, I know it's a little woo-woo for some to understand
For
this, but
sure.
there's a reason we do what we do. And I truly believe, Emily, that you've identified why we're a little messy. There's more going on than somebody
Right.
not being able to organize. And when I think back to people in my life and why they were disorganized, and not that I am
Right.
super organized, I just, you have a drawer, put stuff in there in a certain place. After time, it's going to get messy. Straighten it up again. No big deal. Um, I believe that people have stuff going on, but they don't even realize they do.
Right. Clutter is
Yeah.
a symptom of something else. Clutter's
Yeah.
not the problem. It's the symptom of something else. So I
Mm,
like to go for the something else, the root cause.
yeah. Why wouldn't
It
you?
ultimately is in the client's best interest. It makes me happy, but it makes them happy and transformed and at peace. So it's a good deal. It's a
Yeah.
win-win.
You want to straighten up your place, hire a cleaning person. if you want to change your life based on all of this, hire this person. How do we find you?
You can find me on all the social media platforms. I'm at Built to be Visible. I also have a website, www.builttobevisible.com. And you can call me 480-221-8874. I'm out here in Arizona.
And you can work virtually anywhere.
I can work virtually.
Cool. Because energy knows no space and time. And
sure.
Until next time, great talking with you. And thanks you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Steve. This was so fun.
Same. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.